What a poor choice of scene change. The episode literally ends with Jinshi's over here drinking in a dark room with tragic music, while over here you have Yinghua like literally cuddling up to Maomao in her bed. Jinshi's like, I love Maomao. I wish she would acknowledge who I am. And then over here, Maomao's like, oh, it's too hot. I ship it, by the way. I totally ship it. I love Yinghua in this episode. This is such a cute little episode with her. Like having these little moments where Maomao's acknowledging that she's just looking after me. We got these new attendants in here. Had to be 3 sisters that all look the same. It feels like they're kind of getting lazy with production. One of them looks really sus. But no, like a really cute episode around Yinghua and how much she cares for Maomao, trying to do stuff with her, you know, bringing her out to do stuff together, getting a little bit of insight into Shisui. And yes, obviously highlighting the tragic side of the previous emperor, the late emperor. We obviously had in the previous episode a lot of information around, you know, Anshi and how she basically turned lemons into lemonade, basically. Like this girl was put through a really horrible situation that no young girl should. She was put through the situation, pretty much handed over to the emperor and his desires and sort of what his messed up head, all that he can sort of accept because he's afraid of older women. But yet she still loved him and it still seemed like she wanted to be wanted by him all the way into the very end and getting some sort of nice closure. It seemed like we had a nice end to Anshi's story. She has a happy end. Now let's see the sad part of it. Let's see that one girl that we talked about very briefly that was rejected by the late emperor and rejected by the previous empress. Let's look at what happened to her. It doesn't look good. Now, it does seem like this episode does conclude that she has passed away, that she is no longer around, but we, of course, still have, yes, where is the daughter? The daughter is still the question mark. Again, I kind of made a little bit of prediction on the idea that it might be, it's a shot in the dark here. Might be Maomao's mother, but probably not. It could just be somebody else that'll come into the picture later on that will want to claim some sort of power within the kingdom, but we'll see. But yeah, a lot of insight into that stuff and seeing the sort of tragic side of that. But let's get into the episode proper, opening up with, again, they bring in these 3 new ladies. They talked about it before, but the fact that Loulan is bringing in a lot of lady-in-waitings, and it does sort of make this sort of shift of power look. Like, because she has so many lady-in-waitings, it makes her look more important, so they kind of want to even that out by bringing more lady-in-waitings to the other ones. I don't know why they don't just kick them out. It does show that, yes, obviously Loulan's father is very powerful. I mean, this is the person they talked about in the previous episode, that they were trying to bring in more concubines to the late emperor, but Loulan's father was the one that shot it down. He does have power within this empire. I mean, that's the main reason why Loulan is being brought in. She's being brought in basically to show favor to that family, because that guy has a lot of power. But anyways, these 3 individuals, again, the older one, Haku, she looks very sus. I mean, it just keeps showing her looking like very inquisitive, like, what's going on here? What's going on here? I don't know. It seems like it's putting way too much attention on her. I doubt she's bad, but I guess it's more interesting to kind of see, like, yes, from an outsider's perspective, sort of the chemistry that Maomao and Yinghua and Hongyang have. And yes, getting at the fact that Maomao's punishment is over, but she doesn't want to leave the shed. You have to go back to your assigned room. No, I want to stay in the shed. I was a bad person. Let me stay here. But again, showing that cute side that Yinghua is trying to make sure that Maomao doesn't feel like she's being pushed out. We have these new lady-in-waitings, hoping that she doesn't have anxiety, you know, fitting with the group, stop trying to isolate yourself, which, yeah, it's to Maomao, it's not really a thing. But Gokyo came to the rescue. She allowed it. She's allowing it. Hongyang and Gokyo are allowing it. But no, that's when Yinghua used a little manipulation. Oh, you really feel bad about what you did? Okay, well, you're going to go out with me tonight. Which, yes, just to go to the northern area where they have these old buildings. They mentioned it sometime in the episode that, yes, technically this late emperor, this one girl that did get pregnant with somebody, and they claimed that it wasn't the emperor's son. It seemed like she stayed in the north side here. She was pushed away here and not allowed to leave the rear palace. And it seemed like over time, she actually started bringing in a lot of ladies to tell stories. According to Hongyang, apparently this was something that she started doing in order to be like her only joy. Like she enjoyed bringing the ladies in there and them all telling stories. But yeah, they get there, they start telling stories. Very quickly, Maomao picks up, and I picked up on this very quickly too. They're just telling rumors and stories like from the rear palace. Like that whole story with the maid throwing herself in the moat and the other person coming there and getting attacked. Like, yeah, that's technically the story that we had in the first season. These poor girls have no entertainment. Like Like they all they could do is just gather together and tell rumors of the Mirror Palace. I would think with the fact that they're able to now read stories and they're teaching reading in the Mirror Palace, I would assume that at some point they could start bringing in books that will actually have actual tales. But it was cool to kind of see some of them actually having stories that were outside the Mirror Palace, like the Forbidden Forest. But it goes really quickly into the idea that, yes, we all know Maomao is a realist. She's going to be somebody that is going to pick something apart and try to find the logic within it. There is this idea. I mean, it even came across in her story. She's like, yeah, there was this one story where this grave had this fireball that was floating around. So the men went to go check out, and she quickly kills her own story. Like, and it ended up being one of the other one of the people in the village. He was just going by with this torch. Yeah, he was a grave robber. He was getting to the bodies so that he can cut open the bellies. The organs in it could sell for a lot of money. It's a very realist type of mentality. Like, every single story has some sort of logic that can be given to it. Just the same with the whole Forbidden Forest. Oh, they came back and they had a glowing mushroom. It's not some spooky story. It's not a demon coming to consume them. There's just a logic behind everything. And I like how the end Yinghua is like, oh, that's not that interesting anymore. Like, now that you know the reasoning. But again, that's to the whole point. Yinghua, she immediately thinks about it. I mean, everybody else in that room immediately believes it and goes, holy crap, that's really scary. But the entire time, Maomao's over here and she's just going, yeah, that's probably because of this. Yeah, it's probably because of this. She's a logic thinker. She doesn't want to think in the realms of the unknown. She doesn't want to use her imagination. She just wants to figure out what exactly happened. Shisui had a really great story, though. And again, I think that's probably because she's only recently arrived here. I bet she's had a lot of time. And yes, it's going into hinting at who she might possibly be again. But I think she's had a lot of time outside of the Rear Palace because it seems like she only recently got here, probably along with Loulan. So she's able to bring in like folk tales and tragic stories from the outside that, yeah, it was a lot better. The idea of this monk that goes to this one, house, and that house has some kind of demon in it that wants to consume him but can't see him because he's chanting the sutra. And so it seems like the woman of the house, which was like this demon, ended up consuming the male, and then afterwards there's no sign of them. It was an interesting story. But again, the moment she tells her story, Mama looks at Shisui on the side and she says her profile, she looks very familiar. Yeah, just based on the hair and the eye color, and yes, technically about the same time that a certain Loulan has appeared, the assumption that I still have at this point is it's probably that Shisui is related to Loulan in some way. And yeah, like my brother was kind of mentioning on one of our podcasts, yeah, I can kind of see it being one of those things where Shisui's probably keeping an eye on Maomao. Like, Loulan probably sent Shisui because she was intrigued to learn more about Maomao, sends Shisui in order to monitor Maomao, because she keeps popping up. This girl loves to go to the north side and pick at things and everything, but she keeps suddenly just randomly popping up and going, oh, Maomao, which, yes, is a lot of the characters in the story, let's be honest, but it just seems like this girl, we haven't really specified what she's doing, just that she's a court lady, that she's just there. But is she assigned to somebody? Is she working under somebody? Question mark. It seems like she has a lot of freedom. I mean, most of the other girls, whenever you see them, they're working. But Shishui's always just catching bugs or just running around. This girl seems to have a lot of freedom. But anyways, yeah, Maomao tells her story. gets Yinghua so mad. She's like, stop it, headbutts. There's a cute little chemistry to the two of them in this episode. I mean, Maomao, you play with fire. You get what you deserve. But yes, that's when we get into probably the biggest nitty-gritty of this episode, which is this host of the actual storytelling finally tells the story of the previous emperor. Brings up the fact that the Rear Palace kept growing, and yes, brings up the fact that, yes, the previous Empress Dowager, or the Empress Regnant, yes, she was growing the Rear Palace by essentially appealing to the desires of the late Emperor. The fact that the only people that he would be with are young girls. The previous Emperor would choose young girls, barely of age, and take their innocence. The girls, once taken, were never allowed to leave, spending days in confinement. One became pregnant, she pleaded to the Emperor, and she was never allowed to leave the Rear Palace. And just before she died, she spoke the words, "Next, it will be your turn." I wonder if the last part is part of that or part of this spooky story because she was leading into something horrific here. Of course, yes, this entire time, Maomao is feeling sleepier and sleepier and sleepier, eventually realizing, oh yeah, we're in an enclosed room, there's 12 of us, and we're losing oxygen, and we're getting poisoned by what's burning on here. We need to open a window. Eventually, Maomao realizes we're getting carbon monoxide poisoning here. We got to open up something. But then she quickly disappears. Now, yes, as we talk to Hongyang later on, she mentions the idea that this lady who right now we're kind of connecting to be this one that had this child that was rejected by the emperor, the late emperor, was this old lady that was the host of this entire thing, and that she was doing this thing, this gathering for many years ever since then in order to be like her entertainment. But then last year, she passed away. So the question mark, obviously, and it doesn't seem like it wants to answer at this point, was this her or was this a ghost? Or is this somebody who is just cruelly trying to carry on this tradition? Somebody else knew this whole story and knew what she was doing there and wants to keep on the tradition. That's the question mark. It seems like the lady disappeared. With how this story is so focused on Maomao being sort of a realist and somebody that wants actual physical evidence, doesn't believe in ghosts and whatnot, it kind of feels off to have this writer actually have a ghost appear and continue on this tradition. But would I put it past them? I don't know. The assumption here is that this could possibly be somebody that was trying to carry on the tradition. Somebody that came in there, dressed themselves up to look like them to keep it going. Which makes me believe that it's somebody with malicious intent to carry on the tradition in order to get at Maomao or something like that. Because at the very end, when Maomao opens the window, she says, "I was so close," and then she disappears. I can see her just fleeing at that point and getting away. But yes, with this and everything that happened with Hongyang afterwards, it does solidify the fact that this person that did bear this child that was rejected was sent back to the rear palace. Yes, of course, they said that the daughter was sent away out of the palace itself, but she was to remain there, and she was stuck there. And it seems like, again, this is her story. And it does seem like she was upset about this whole thing, obviously going to be upset about the whole thing, and was kept there. But I think the more telling thing is that I don't think the words "next it will be your turn" was intended for Maomao in this whole situation. I really do think that's sort of a borrowed thing there, which does imply to me sort of my theory that I had in the previous episode, that I think that's going to become a story bit at some point. That my assumption was that either the daughter was going to come back to the palace and claim power, or possibly from outside the palace will want to get revenge for what happened to her mother. Maybe at some point after she grew up for a while, finds out what happened to her mother, that she was confined in there, and wanted to take revenge against the emperor. Yes, the late Empress Regnant is no longer there, so it's not like she can get revenge at this point, but she could want to get revenge on the empire itself. But I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, Maomao saves everybody. They end up leaving. Again, Shisui catches up with them once the deets on the whole Forbidden Forest thing. It was kind of cute. She gets her little information. Oh, that's cool, and then walks away. And then, yeah, Yinghua's like, wow, that makes everything kind of boring at that point. You know what actually happened is kind of boring. Yeah, Hongyang gives the information about that all stuff. And then, yes, Yinghua wants to sleep with Maomao. Again, sleeping and cuddling up with Maomao. Maomao's like, it's so hot. And then over there, Jinshi's mad. Poor Jinshi with his sad music drinking in a lone room. Where's Maomao? I wonder what she's doing right now. She's sleeping with somebody. But no, jokes aside, yes, it obviously feels like we might be getting into something with Jinshi, giving us a little ominous tip that, yes, we might actually get into some story stuff with him in the next episode. Probably his growing frustrations with, being alone, sort of being isolated by his own secret that he's had. But it could have something to do with what was kind of unfolded in the previous episode. This realization that his father was, doing this painting and that he possibly died of the painting, that kind of stuff. Though I don't think from his perspective anything was really revealed in that whole scenario. He was kind of off to the side. It seemed like Anshi was the one that was getting the realizations that were impactful to her. Jinshi learning that his father was painting, shrug. Anshi was the one that had the most impact there. But we'll see. We'll see. Based on the preview of the next episode, it looks like Jinshi and Maomao are going to get a little bit of a fun adventure together. So hopefully that'll kind of push something to happen there. Because I do believe that we need to finally get some sort of closure or realization from Maomao's perspective what's going on with Jinshi. Because not that I feel like I need to have Maomao acknowledge who Jinshi actually is, but it's more of the fact that they keep pushing it. Like the writing keeps pushing that this needs to be revealed. So it's one of those things where it's like, then just do it already. Then just do it already. But we'll see. But that's my thoughts on episode 34 of Apothecary Diaries. Solid episode. A lot of fun stuff in this episode, really. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. As always, if you did hit the like button down below, comment. Let me know if you like the episode. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate it. But until next time, y'all take care.